morning. I love the tune by Simon Mogul of the New School. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca Friedman, the director of the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab here at FIU, and I am very proud to welcome you all to our last episode of Season 4 of Coffee and Conversations, Telling Community Stories. Thank you all so very much for joining us. We are thrilled to be here talking with one of our dear community partners, the Jewish Museum of Florida-FIU, with its director, Susan Gladstone Pasternack. We'll chat for a bit about JMOF FIU's ongoing efforts to preserve and to share the stories of Jewish communities here in South Florida, in the US, and well beyond our borders. But before we do that, I'm going to just give you a little bit of background on this very last episode for this season, which is that we are now in our 4th season, and we started Coffee and Conversations at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. And actually, we spoke with Susan then, if I recall, as a way of strengthening community ties and supporting the great work being done by our many community partners. We've explored topics from how the pandemic has affected museums and cultural institutions, the histories of anti-Blackness in museum spaces and beyond, and we explored new works and literature with the Miami Book Fair. So please visit our YouTube channel to watch all the past episodes. Now with this season, Telling Community Stories, we are highlighting the incredible work of our 8 trusted community partners, including the Jewish Museum of Florida-FIU. We're embarking on this journey with them as part of a major grant generously funded by the Mellon Foundation, meant to digitize parts of their one-of-a-kind collections, create new archives through oral history projects, and preserve community stories for generations to come. So I'm very eager to hear what our guest today and her team have in store for this project. But briefly, our format's simple. We're going to talk for a little bit under 30 minutes. Then we'll ask, in which I'll ask our guests some questions, and then we'll take some questions from the audience if there are any. And if you have a question, there is a button below where you can just ask that question. So today we have the great honor and pleasure of being in conversation with Susan Gladstone Pasternack. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much. And the opening music is fabulous.
Thank you. Last week I admitted it was my son.
Yeah, that's fine. Be a proud mother. It's great music.
Thank you. All right, so why don't we get started? Can you start us off, please, and just tell us a bit about the Jewish Museum of Florida, its connection to FIU, and the work that you're doing, and maybe a little bit about why it's so very important that your organization's come into existence.
Okay, so we're located in the 2 buildings that comprise the first synagogue on Miami Beach, not in Miami, but on Miami Beach. And the first building was built in 1929 and the second in 1936. So until Hurricane Andrew in 1992, it functioned as a synagogue. 1992 was ruined by Hurricane Andrew, this beautiful Art Deco building. And Marcia Joe-Zarevitz, who's the founding executive director of the museum, had created a traveling exhibition with the stories of Jewish families in the entire state of Florida, starting in 1763, and needed a space. So the exhibit and the renovated space came together and became a museum. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary as an official museum.
Congratulations.
And in its original inception, the goal of the museum was to collect and preserve and tell the stories of the accomplishments and also the trials and tribulations of the Jews in the state of Florida. In 2012, and I wasn't there, so I can't tell exactly how it all came together, but FIU had already established 2 other museums, an art museum and the Frost and the Wolfsonian. And conversations were held about having the Jewish Museum become part of the FIU family of museums, and that came to fruition in 2012. when I became the director, working in conjunction with FIU, we expanded the original mission to include more international stories because we're part of an international university. And we also, it really has contributed, being part of FIU, to our ability to work with wonderful professors, great speakers. During the pandemic, we've had wonderful, I have to say, it's one of the silver linings of the pandemic is you can have a fabulous speaker from Israel without the airfare and the hotels and the,
Yeah.
it's really been conducive to having some great programming. And we've been closed up until April 6th, and we opened. We are redoing the core exhibit. So the core exhibit tells the story of Jewish families. And that exhibit had not been refreshed or redone since 1997. So we're in the process of doing that, and that will probably take a year and a half. But while we're doing that, we're telling the story of the building. It's such a beautiful building.
Yeah.
The stained glass windows, the architecture, the Art Deco motifs, as well as all of the items, the three-dimensional items that were in the core collection are out on display. But much of our collection is photographs and letters and items that we look forward with great relish to be able to digitize.
Yes.
And along the years, I will say that the mission also came to include the connection between the stories of the Jewish community and those of all of our neighbors who also have had an immigration experience. So, all Jews living in this state are the grandchildren or great-grandchildren, of someone who immigrated from either the Eastern European world, the Western European world, or the North Africa, Caribbean, all the different places that Jews have been living in the world. And so everyone has an immigrant story.
That's right.
And it's such a universal story. And so we really feel that we can share that, shared experience with other communities. And we're really working on expanding that part of our work that we do.
So wonderful. I know that you are doing that. And I think that's one of the most powerful projects that you all have going on now. I know you work, for example, a lot with Casa Cuba at
Yes.
FIU. I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind if you'd be willing to share a little bit about the work you're doing with them to highlight the Cuban Jewish experience.
Right. Well, I have to say we've been a little bit stymied by the pandemic for some of the things that we wanted to do, but we started out with a three project, a three-step big project.
Yeah.
And the first one was Cuban Jewish artists, which we put on display during the last Art Basel, and there hasn't been another one. And then we did a book project where I introduced to our audience a wonderful Cuban Jewish author. And the third was supposed to be an in-person dinner, using some of the recipes from Cuba. And again, the Jews in Cuba are also from what we call the Sephardic Jews, the Jews that originally came from Spain, and the European Jews. And the recipes are different and the food is different.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as just Jewish food. That's just Jewish food. It ranges and it differs. And so in Cuba, you also had both Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. And so there's a wide range of recipes. And so we're still hoping to do that once we can meet in person. And we're also hoping to create an exhibit. So we have small exhibits around the campus. We have one in the North Library, the North Campus Library, Biscayne Bay, one at the President's House, Reagan House, one at the Green Library. And we're hoping to create one. Yeah, we have like a case in every library with items. We're hoping to create that for Casa Cuba when it's a building, so that we always have something there from the Jewish Museum and vice versa, something from theirs in our museum, so that we make this an ongoing process.
I love that. It's so important. And so does your collection include a lot of items that are about Cuban Jews, whether they're Sephardic or Ashkenazi?
Right. We don't have a lot. We have some.
Okay.
And we have a lot of photographs, and we do have some items. But we're hoping when we are able to do our history harvest.
Yes, which we will.
Okay, so we're going to do a history harvest to collect more items.
Yes.
And include the Cuban Jewish community, and hopefully that will have, but again, we have to wait until we can have a lot of people in the museum at one time.
Of course, lots of excellent work ahead, with us, with them, together,
Yeah.
all of it. Really excited.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings me to the next question, which is that, this has been, and we've heard through all the months, the ways in which this moment is so hard for cultural institutions. And
Yes.
I know you guys have adjusted, and you say that there is a silver lining, and I understand, but the coronavirus, of course, has complicated the flow of resources,
Correct.
the return to regular operations and so forth. So can you share with the audience a little bit about the kind of pluses and minuses, and then ultimately how we can support you through this next phase of transition?
Thank you. So the pluses are what I mentioned before. We've been able to, we've created a number of regular programs, much like this one.
Yeah.
We've developed audience for those. Excuse me, I must take a sip.
No, please. I am too.
And that's been a great plus.
Yeah.
We're located on Miami Beach. It's absolutely beautiful building. But not everybody wants to drive there at night, or, and so we would have evening programs that maybe had 20 people. And when we do them virtually, we have 100 people. So we've been able to extend our reach through the virtual programming. And I truly believe that going forward, hybrid is going to be the basis, So we've installed a camera so that we can Zoom our lectures that are in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So when we can return to being in person, you could also Zoom in. And I think that will be really good for our audience. It enables us to have people from all over the state, not just people who live right here, or all over the country,
right,
or the world. Of course, the downside is, not being open and not having visitors and not being able to have student groups and, some of our community outreach programs. And so we're really looking forward to the day when we can do that. What we've done now is we're open 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 to 4.
Okay.
You do have to go to our website, which maybe I'll put it in the chat before we sign off, and reserve a time slot. They are timed slots. So, but we're getting people in. We're very excited. And so if you are interested in seeing what we've done at the museum the Art Deco building, you never could really see all of it before. It's very open. And it's wonderfully curated. So, and then we have the story of the Jews of Florida in another gallery, and then in a third gallery of traveling shows. I'm happy to say, by the way, I'm telling all of you, I hope we can be open, that we're opening in October an exhibition about the life of Barbra Streisand.
Wonderful. I was about to ask.
Yes, we booked that in conjunction with the Frost Art Museum doing the life of Bob Dylan. So, and we did find out there's a connection. Bob Dylan wrote a song, Lay Lady Lay, for Barbra Streisand.
I know that.
So we're really hoping that by the end of October, when this opens, we'll be able to welcome everybody.
That would be amazing.
At once. We're not charging at this time, by the way, so you can just come and visit us. And we would love that. And of course, always becoming a member of the museum really helps support us, especially during this time. Some people, I think, feel like they don't want to be a member because we're closed, but it's even more important during these times that you stick with us so that we can continue forward into the times when we are able to be open. But we're open part-time now. We welcome all of you to come visit us.
And the website is jmof.fiu.edu, jmof.fiu.edu. I'm looking at it now. Beautiful building. And you can, book your visit and become a member. So Susan, can you, I knew that the Barbara Streisand exhibition was on the horizon and had heard that it was going to coincide with Art Basel and all of that good stuff. So we have lots of good work there too. Would you have other exhibitions that are on the horizon, or are you kind of waiting to see what happens with the coronavirus and the openness and all of that? I know a lot of museums are kind of waiting and attenuating their plans.
Right. So the exhibition in the Art Deco building is going to stay as is until we're ready to replace the core exhibit. So that's going to be, there for a while. We have a small gallery named for Bess Meyerson, the first and only Jewish Miss America, by the way. And in there, we're showing the history of Jews of the state of Florida, and every quarter we're changing the part of the state that we highlight. So right now we're highlighting the Panhandle because that's where the first Jews who ever came to Florida from New Orleans in 1763 arrived. And so we're working our way down the state to hide. So every time you come in, there'll be a different part of the state of Florida highlighted in that gallery, as well as treasures from our collection that will keep rotating. And then in the third room is, so right now we have a wonderful exhibit about Will Eisner, who was the father of the graphic novel, the comic book novels.
Huh.
And
yeah, that is very cool.
Yeah. And so we will continue to rotate exhibits in that gallery. We're going to probably use exhibits that we own that haven't been out on the floor for a while until we're fully open. But the Barbara Streisand exhibit was too fantastic. We're the only museum other than the museum in New York at Temple Emmanuel that created the exhibit. They weren't going to travel it anywhere, but I persuaded them that South Florida Miami Beach was a great place for the Barbara exhibit. So, and hopefully we'll be able to do some virtual programming as well for people in other parts of the state and the country to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Do you know what's going to be? Can you give us a little bit of a preview of
Yes, I saw. So I saw the exhibit in New York, and that's when I went to them and said, "This has to come to the Jewish Museum."
I love it.
In Miami Beach. So it's a collection of one man, one collector over his lifetime and her lifetime. So it has everything from her high school yearbook to dresses from Funny Girl, the actual dresses that she wore in the film, and playbills and lots of photographs of her, and the dresses were like sticking with me because they were so exciting to see. There's a spot where you can sit and watch some films, clips. Yes, you can see that. We'll also have a sort of a photo booth where you can take a photo of yourself with Barbara.
So fun. I love it.
And then we're going to have lots of programming and different people who speak about some of her films and the relevance of some of them in our history. And so we're excited, and the community is getting excited as they hear that we're having this. So, and we haven't even begun thinking about all the kind of interesting parties and things we might, events, because we're not sure we'll be able to, but hopefully we will.
And how long is it going to be on for?
So it's going to open the end of October, and it'll be here till the end of February.
Great. Fantastic.
And then it's going back to the collector. So this is it. So that's why we're so excited. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to collaborate on some good Bob Dylan, Barbara Streisand.
Absolutely, especially that song. And he also is
Yeah,
quoted as saying that she's his favorite star.
excellent. Working on that. That's great.
I think it'll be a really nice combination of exhibitions. I just want to make the point that 3 museums, we all work together as much as possible on many different projects, which is one of the incredible things about being a museum attached to
Yeah.
a university with other museums.
Yes. Yeah, you all work together, and you also do the wonderful programming, what's it called, On the Avenue?
On
Where
the
you,
Avenue. So that's a program I had seen in New York, that they have a program called Museum Mile, where people actually walk. They start at the Jewish Museum in New York, and as you walk towards the Met, you pass the Guggenheim and the Nieuwe Gallery, where the Woman in Gold is, and then the Met.
right.
So I've long wanted to do something with our other 2 sister spots on Washington Avenue, the Wolfsonian, and then also the Miami Beach Urban Studios, which is part of the School of Art and Architecture. And so we created it virtually, and it's been terrific. We do an hour program, and each museum has 20 minutes to present on the theme, whatever the theme is. We just did poetry in honor of Poetry Month. And we are looking forward to the day when we can do it in life, actually travel down the avenue and stop in at all 3 places, but we're continuing it virtually until that time.
I mean, I've seen a number of them, and they're just wonderful programs with large audiences and
large audiences.
Yeah.
Great. That's what I'm saying about the silver lining is, we've created these new and different programs that we never had before that really just fit into the virtual format, and we've seen that we get a very good audience response. So
fantastic. I know I asked you this the first time we spoke on this webinar, so I'm going to just ask you now. I'm sure you're in touch with all of your colleagues across the country, directors of other Jewish museums and other museums. Do you have a sense at this, let's hope we're at the other end of the pandemic now, right? Like, do you have a sense of how it's fared and all that?
Yeah. So I do want this, another great thing that came out of the pandemic is all the museum directors in Dade County meet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, virtually to discuss, the different challenges and successes that we're all facing in the community and how opening is going. And so, yes, everybody's open or starting to open, are thinking about opening, so doing it like we are, sort of part-time. So I do see some return to normalcy, but again, I think it'll always be, normal is now going to include virtual.
That's right.
Right. So, and then I'm on the board of an organization called the Council of American Jewish Museums. So I get to meet with the directors of museums around the country. And then there's also a group, similar group for the museums in Europe. And so we've had some Zooms with, international, all the Jewish museums from, Paris and Amsterdam, Moscow, all over the world. And of course, everybody's doing something differently. Some people have had to let go of a lot of staff. We were fortunate enough. We have a very small and mighty staff, but we were able to keep the small and mighty staff. So there's a lot of optimism moving forward in this new format of combining in-person with virtual.
No, it's wonderful.
But financially, it's been a very hard year for all museums because no ticket revenue, no rental revenue, no group fees revenue. Fortunately, the state, the county, the city have all had COVID relief funds. So we're very grateful for those.
But that's why becoming a member is more important than ever. Audience, everyone, it really is.
Absolutely. We have a variety of ranges of membership levels. And I say this at every speech I ever give, it's only through our members that we're able to continue doing our wonderful programming and our exhibits.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful to our members, but we really do need you.
Yes. So
You're doing a mitzvah.
it is a mitzvah. It is. Well, before we wrap up, because we're getting there, believe it or not, is there anything that you would like to add or that we haven't covered or share with the audience? Anything at all? So much great work.
Yeah. So, well, let me address the stories that, we're going to be doing with you. So
Please.
we have a long history at the museum of taking oral histories, but there are two new generations from the original oral histories that were collected.
Yeah.
And we haven't had the opportunity really to catch up with those,
Yes.
my generation. So the original stories are more from like what have been my parents. And now there's a whole generation sort of my age that we need to capture. And then we have our children's generation that is starting to do interesting things. And so we have a lot to do, but we're very excited because we're working with you.
Yes.
And we're also working, CAJM, the organization I just mentioned,
Yes.
has a Stories in the Time of COVID project, and we're one of the museums that's involved in that project.
Yes.
And so that's been an interesting thing as well, because it's on a specific topic. But there are so many stories.
So many, yes.
And it's important for museums like ours, to capture those and preserve them, and for people to be able to listen to them. And so we have a lot of interesting ideas once we get, and of course, digitizing all of them so that they can be available in perpetuity.
That's
Hopefully.
the idea. That's so just a little background for anyone listening in. So this grant, the Mellon grant, like I said at the beginning, essentially provides funding to work with Susan and her team to create new oral history. So we'll have a student intern when we're getting there any moment now. We're working on that for real. Right. We're hiring other folks and to work with you to help to collect those stories. And the kind of ethos of the project, which Mellon was very interested in, is to let the community speak and to follow your lead. And so whatever part of the community seems most important and most relevant, that's where we go. That's where the project will go. And so that the archives we create really reflect the needs of the community you represent and the community that your institution represents. So we're really excited for that work over the next, what is now already 2.5 years. Yeah. But we're kind of getting going on all of that. So glad that you're a part of it. I know that.
So are we.
that the generation, I mean, we got to do this stuff because, people don't live forever and we have to capture the stories in time.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we would love to have in the museum an opportunity, and I just am leaving it at that because I don't know exactly how it will look, but where people could come in while they're visiting the museum and record a short oral history as part of their visit. So then that way we're capturing people from all over, because we do get international visitors and visitors from all over the state and all over the country. And I think that would be really interesting to be able to add as well.
Yes.
People we don't know, who come in and have a story to tell. So
I mean, that technology for sure exists. You know better than I do, I'm sure. Is it at the Holocaust Museum in DC? It might be. I know that technology exists, right? Sure. So let's talk about how to make that happen. It would be
okay, great, because it's part of our plan of the redoing of the exhibition is to include something like that and see where that takes us.
Like an oral history booth. Let's
do it. Exactly.
Let's do it. And on that note, we are in fact out of time. So I just want to thank you so much, Susan, for taking the time.
My pleasure.
And talking with us, or talking with me.
Yes.
And working with the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab. And thank you to the audience for listening in and participating. So like I said, this is the final episode of season 4. So visit us online on Twitter and Facebook. And we look forward to starting season 5 next fall. We'll see what's on deck. We're working on it.
Great.
On that note, everyone stay safe and thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Are you still there?
We're gonna do this.